Hi, everyone. So, welcome to episode 6 of the Pragmatic Spiritualist podcast. And in this podcast, we'll be talking about all things light language. And the reason why I wanted to do this is because I know a lot of you are undergoing or coming into your spiritual awakening. So, and when you're in your spiritual awakening, you're sort of exploring modalities that get you in touch with your soul, that get you in touch further with that in touch with your soul and that connection with your soul, right? So you search various spiritual modalities. And if you guys may have come across light language. So you may have come across hearing people speak in tongues, so to speak, for want of a better word, or doing these squiggle writings and that sort of thing. And you may be thinking, what is this? This makes me feel a particular way, or it doesn't make me feel anything at all, which we'll get into. So I thought, let me just do a podcast, like a beginner's podcast covering all things light language. I also wanted to cover it as well because over the past, I would say, a year and a half, I've been coming into my own light language as well. And it's been expanding and it's been taking on different forms, and we'll cover the different forms that light language can take. So you fully understand it, what light language is by the end of it. And whether you yourself are connecting in with your light language, because you could very well be. Okay, so we'll cover how to know whether you're coming into your light language. All right, so what I feel or what comes to me that light language is, it's an expression of your soul. It's an expression of your remembrance that we all come from source, God, whatever term you choose to use, apply it. It's about us connecting in with our divine spark. It's us connecting in that we are made in God's image and likeness. It's us connecting in that we are fragments of the ultimate God, source, supreme being. It's us having that remembrance of that and being able to express it. That's what I view as light language. Now, on my channel, I do tarot readings and we do a lot of intuition. So similar to intuition and all of that with light language, it's all about the resonance, and it's all about resonating with the tones and the vibration frequencies and the language of it. However, with intuitive readings, and if you see me looking over here, I'm just checking my notes because I want to make sure we cover everything. Okay, right? So with intuitive readings, you always have to tune into what someone is saying with how they make you feel. You have to listen to the meanings, you have to analyze, you have to interpret to determine whether you get it or whether you resonate with an intuitive reading and what someone's telling you. However, the beauty with light language, so in a way, to go back a step, when we're talking about intuition and resonance and getting it, you have to engage your conscious mind, you have to engage your egoic mind, right? But the thing with light language, because it's a soul expression and it's a soul remembrance of who we are and being made in God, source, divine image and likeness, the beauty of light language is that it bypasses the egoic mind, it bypasses our consciousness. So you don't need to understand it, because many times the tones we're speaking in, you wouldn't understand. You don't even necessarily need to believe it, because it's bypassing our mental body. We can't make sense of it. It's speaking to something that's really much deeper than that, right? It's going to the deeper layers. It's going to the deeper aspects of our soul. We can't intellectually get it. There's nothing to intellectually get. A light language is bigger than that. There is more to us than just our ego, our conscious mind, and our intellect. We're so much more than that. Our ego and conscious mind and all that intellect and all that stuff, we do need it. I don't want to downplay it. We need it. We need it to operate in the world and make sense of the world and where we are. We need it to be safe. We need it to have our experience and to perceive our reality. So we need the ego and the conscious mind and everything else for that. So that's just to say that. But the beauty with light language is that it doesn't speak on that level. And the reason why that's valuable is because many times with light language, as particularly when we don't get it, it could be our intellectual mind, or it could be our egoic mind that's resisting it. And the reason why, and this is many times why we don't get light language or we feel nothing is happening and all of that, It's because many times we're stuck in the ego, we're stuck in the intellectual mind. So the ego and the intellectual mind wants to understand. They want to understand what's happening. They want to understand the sound. They want to understand what is being seen so that it could ensure that we're safe, right? But the thing is with light language, you can't control it. You can't control where it goes. You can't control what's happening. And it's that surrender, it's that letting go of control that allows the light language to really have its power with you, power in you, or for you to co-create with that light language. Okay, and we'll come to more on that. So if the light language bypasses the egoic mind and the consciousness and the intellectual mind and everything else, then exactly where does this light language go? So the light language is going into more subtle body layers, if you like. And I wouldn't go into us being multidimensional beings. I wouldn't go into much about our electromagnetic fields and so on, for the sake of this. But just understand that we, are more than our physical vessel, right? There's more to us than that. We have what I refer to it as our celestial body, astral. We have our celestial body, our etheric body, our mental bodies, emotional bodies, physical bodies, spiritual bodies, our souls. We exist on so many different levels and vibrational frequencies. So I often compare it to, when someone walks into a room and the atmosphere in the room changes and you could pick up a vibe from them. That is the reason why, because we're more than our bodies. We have so many layers of energy fields to us. We exist on we are multidimensional beings. I'm sure some of you may have heard, the third, fourth, fifth dimension, etc. There's so much more to us, and light language speaks on those subtle layers. So if we take our emotional bodies, for instance, so our emotional bodies are where, as the term says, our emotions exist. So grief, happiness, joy, and on the other side of the spectrum, grief and fear, as well, or trapped emotions that we may not even be aware of. That's in our emotions. So light language communicates and it dances in our emotional body, if you like. In terms of our physical vessel is made up of cells, and cells come together to, like cells come together, they come together to form organs, etc., etc. So the light language could also interact with us on a cellular level as well. And on a cellular level in our bodies is where traumas could be stored, is where ancestral patterns could live. So if you've ever read the book, The Body Keeps Score, it's a perfect example of that. It, is a phrase I saw the other day that when we go through trauma, and I won't go into what trauma is and that sort of thing, that's for another time. But when we go through trauma, it's like our body many times holds that trauma for us until we're in a state where we're ready to process it. And that's where the dark night of the soul comes in and so on. So light language could also help with the healing and release of emotions and traumas and ancestral patterns that no longer work for us anymore, because the light language speaks on those subtle layers where these things exist. Our light body and our energetic grid. So I referred to that earlier. Someone comes into the room, you can pick up a vibe off them, etc. So that is a rough way of speaking to our light bodies and our energetic bodies. So light language could speak to that as well. It could speak to our chakra systems, and our chakra systems are where like divine force energy comes in, and it could be used to expand. That's how our soul connects with us, or the aspects of our soul connects with us and sits in our bodies, and we can create the reality depending on the light that's coming in and everything else. I don't want to go into too much detail about that because I don't want to go off course, but light language could help exist there and, go to where it's needed for us to find balance, to expand fully and become aware of our God being and our God spark, so that we could express our souls in this human experience in the fullest way that we were meant to. All right. Also, you may have heard the concept of our soul blueprint and our DNA and inactive DNA, and switching on our DNA and activating our DNA. And that, again, is part and parcel of just putting up with this day-to-day life and being able to exist and so on. For many of us, we shut down aspects and elements of ourselves to be a part of a tribe, to be a part of a group, to be accepted. And all of that is part and parcel of surviving. So no judgment. But the light language comes in and it works on these subtle layers that we've shut down to survive, or we've shut down through programming to switch us back on, for us to remember just who we are, right? So that's the beauty of light language. And I even have a note here that they're telling me light language goes where words can't, to the place that's ready to heal, to the place that's ready to evolve. Okay, so that's a really great way of encapsulating all that I rambled on before. Another thing that I wanted to come to as well is why you might, so if light language is as fantastic as I say it is, why is it that many times you or one may listen to it, but it doesn't feel like it's affecting us? And I touched on this briefly at the beginning with the intellectual mind and the ego wanting to protect us and everything else and making judgments on it and all of that. I touched on it briefly there, but another reason why, a couple of other reasons why we may not feel anything is firstly, the person who is the practitioner who is delivering that light language. It could be that we just don't resonate with them, or we may not resonate with them yet. That's another thing. So, and this is exactly like going to a therapist or going to a doctor or going to your dentist. You know, you want to go to someone that you resonate with or that makes you feel comfortable. It's no reflection on whether they could actually do the thing or not. It's just who you feel comfortable with, who resonates with you. Another thing is that many times we could be in a particular vibration frequency, and the person delivering the light language, they're on, it's like radio channels, right? We're on one frequency, another person's on another frequency. We may not be in alignment for us to be able to pick up the tone and the vibration of their light language. So that's another reason why we may not feel anything. So I'll give an example, like activations by JJ. Like JJ is, I believe her name is JJ. She's a channeler. She does light language. She channels so many different galactic beings, archangel beings, etc. For the longest while, I'll listen to activations by JJ and I would not be able to, I just never connected with it. I could tell it was beautiful. I could tell it was authentic and she's speaking from her soul. And I'll look in her comments and there are all these people saying, oh my God, JJ, you're amazing. Da, 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 da. A lot of the mentors that I've worked with, JJ's also worked with them. And I remember once seeing a course and I'm just like, oh, I want to do this, but I don't know. JJ just, for me, it never worked. But guess what? Towards the end of last year, I don't know, I just went through a very potent time of releasing and expanding and closing timelines and healing and opening up myself to divine, to downloads. And I just went through shifts and changes over a period of time. And then activations by JJ turned up in my feed and I listened to it and bang, it hit me. So that I use that as an example that many times is not to say that if you're on a vibration frequency that you're higher or lower than someone else. It has nothing to do with that. I more like the analogy of a radio channel and whether you're tuning in or not, or whether you could find it or not, etc. So clearly something in me had shifted for me to be able to pick up the energy vibrations of JJ's frequency, right? Another reason why many times you like language, you may feel it's not working or it may not have an effect on you is because, and it follows on from the point I just made, you're not really in a state where the codes are, you're ready to use the codes. So all those subtle energy bodies I talked about, it could be that they're not ready yet for the codes. So many times you would find that these codes are lying dormant. Right? They're lying dormant in our different energy fields and bodies. So whether it's our emotional, physical, etheric, celestial bodies, they'd be lying dormant. And the codes could lie dormant and they could be lying dormant waiting to be activated. So in the example I used with JJ, they could be just waiting until you're of the particular energy and vibration frequency on all these subtle bodies that we talked about for those codes to be switched on. So these codes are very intelligent. These codes have its own intelligence that surpass the mental intellect and intelligence that we spoke of previously and earlier in this. So, and a phrase that I had to sum this up is just like a seed waits for the right season, light codes bloom when your frequency is ready and when your energy frequency says yes. All right. So don't feel that nothing's happening. Is there another point before that I wanted to go to? No. Okay. Now, this is a section that I feel is quite important. And this is what light codes actually is. And it's not just one thing. There are many different ways that, because remember at the beginning, I said that light language is about the expression of your soul, right? So if following on from that logic, there is more than one way to express your soul. So many times we hear the spoken light language, or we may see the written light language. But there's such a fuller spectrum, and I don't want you guys to miss out on this fuller spectrum. The reason why I want to go into the spectrum of light language as well is because some of you guys may be coming into your own light language and you may not even be aware of it, because you may have the perception that light language is just spoken or it's just written. Okay, so these are different ways that light language, one can express light language. So vocal styles. So we know of the spoken rhythmic styles, so this is the equivalent of speaking in tongues that we know of, or galactic tones or coded syllables. So we understand that. Light language could also be sung. So you may have melodic frequencies too. So when you're singing, you could have those light codes being communicated or being transmitted through song. Toning. So sometimes you could use tones like or you could use various vowel sounds, and it's the pitch and the frequency of those sounds that also carry the light code. Like sometimes I'll hear some toning and I'll be like, ooh, that hit my ear funny. And many times, and I could feel it like behind my eyes doing something, and I could feel it to the medulla oblongata just going. So toning is a huge one. So many times when you feel like it doesn't come to me to use these coded syllables, but I want to tone. So for instance, for me, I never started with coded syllables, but I would start with toning, and they would give me the pitch and the vibration frequency that I needed to communicate. And that's how I started my light language, through toning. So written codes. So light language could come through automatic writing and the wisdom that's in it. It could come through symbols. It could come through sacred geometry. So if you see a lot of sacred geometry, and if you're ahead, you find yourself doodling as well, and it's just like you can't help it. It's just something that you need to express, or personal scripts that could activate you visually from looking at it. That's another way that light language could be communicated. Now, one that people don't often know about, in fact, going on from written codes, it's, sorry. I thought I had something else written, but I don't have it, so it's fine. Movement. So movement is one that people don't really know about. So it's like dance flows and movement through your body. And in my mind's eye, they're showing me Tai Chi. Channeled movement either during meditation or during healing. Also mudras and hand gestures. So that's another way I express my light language as well. It's like in my mind's eye, my hands feel a compulsion to move. And they move and they sort of draw lines and shapes and so on in the air. And that is my way of, like doing this. And that's my way of communicating my light language codes. And even for myself, and this is a very late one, I could even feel my physical body through movement in my body. I could feel that coming in. So that's something for me that's also coming online. Now, artistic expression is another way to communicate your light language. So through drawings, mandalas, and visual transmissions. So, oh gosh, what's her name? She channeled Saint Germain. And she was a mentor of mine. Oh my God, I hate it. When I get into the flow of things, sometimes my mind just goes blank, but I'll see whether I could link her in the comments below or on the screen. But in addition to channeling Saint Germain, She also does visual arts and paintings. And many times I look at her visual arts and paintings, I could see codes and light language codes in her paintings and in her art. Her art is beautiful. I'm seeing her face, but no, this is going to annoy me. So let me try to find this, find her name. No. Channel Saint Germain. Tara Arnold. Look at Tara Arnold's art. And from my humble opinion, I think her art is beautiful. Her art moves me. And you could see a lot of light language codes from my perspective in her art. Now, another way light language could be communicated via our soul expression that people may not be familiar with is the silent transmission. And there is, oh my God, me and names. So what I mean by silent transmission is that someone could just gaze at you, or someone's present. Someone could just be present with you. And you could just feel them, or the codes. If you don't feel it, the codes could work on that deeper level as well. So I know a friend of mine, and she does silent transmissions. So silent transmissions of light codes, like they don't say anything, they don't need to do anything, but the codes are coming in like, they're very intense, and you can feel the energy. And that's what I like to refer to as a soul to soul moment, right? And just to say, because there's so many people who do this light language and who do this channeling now, and I go through, remember, it's a soul expression, right? So it's very personal to someone. So go easy, don't be judgy. And also it's a matter of that it's not a performance. It's not for your entertainment. It's a transmission, right? It's a transmission from source. It's a transmission from God, or it's a transmission of, let's say, of an entity, be it, let's say, archangels, be it galactic beings, be it their own personal counsel, be it their spirit guide team, be it their higher self. It's a transmission of that, a transmission of codes, a transmission of information to you. It's not a performance. It's someone's soul expression. Now, I've alluded to this earlier, and I want to talk about the healing path of light language. So Rumi has this quote, which I know many of you have heard before, and chances are you know what I'm going to say. The wound is the place where the light enters you. So light language often goes to places within you that words can't reach. We covered that before. We covered that we talked about us being multidimensional beings, so it could find our multidimensional knots, if you like, or places on our multidimensional frequencies where we may not be quite in alignment, where we may potentially have blocks, and just begin to gently untie them. So it's communicating with our frequencies, not communicating with our logic. So light language is particularly potent, having said all of that, in helping with emotional clearings, cellular healing, with closing out ancestral karmic patterns that no longer work for us anymore, with energetic recalibration, particularly with our chakras. If we have certain elements of our chakras where our divine life force energy enters, if they happen to be out of alignment, light language is very good at getting us back into balance and getting us back into that connection with ourselves. And overall, for me, and this is for me at the moment where it's coming through quite strongly, is with our spiritual remembrance, with our remembrance of where we are from, with our deeper soul's calling, with our awakening to the fact that we are all connected, we are all one, connecting with the fact that we are of source and we are of God, and we are a fragment of source. So we are a fragment of all there is. We are multidimensional beings having a human experience. It's connecting us back to oneness. It's connecting us back to love. It's connecting us back to joy. It's connecting us back to the fullness and the expansionness and the hugeness, for want of a better word, of our being, that in this vessel many times, and in going through the humdrum day to day, we lose perspective on, right? So that for me is where light language goes. Now, how do you know when your light language is coming online or when you're ready to deliver it? Because this is the reason why I'm doing this, because like I feel my light language is coming online now, and I will share this with you guys moving forward. So many times you may feel the urge to hum, or you may feel the urge in your hands to draw or to draw symbols, or you may feel the urge to be like in a crowded space or in a crowded place and just be, and you could feel energy or just coming through you to people that are in your surroundings, or you may feel the sense to move and feel the sense to move in a particular way, you know? So it's picking up on all of this. And many times it ain't going to make a bit of sense to you, or many times it may sound like nonsense to your egoic mind, or your intellect can't make any sense of it. But just know that you're connecting into the memory of your soul. You're connecting and you're remembering that you're made, that you're a divine spark. That's what light language is. It's remembering. It's coming back to that remembering. And it's once you remember this, it's how you choose to express it. We all expressing it in our own unique way. No light language, and this is something I want to say, no one light language is the same. You know, we're all different. We're all unique, like a snowflake. You know, it's all a unique thing. It's the soul remembering how it used to communicate. And I could even go in at this point that many times with communicating and even with reading, we are used to talking and describing things in such a linear way, with noun, verb, adjective, reading from left to right on a page and so on. Whereas light language is just more than that. It's, you know, you could do it linearly from the top of the page down. You could start from the middle and go out. And this is where sacred geometry is just so powerful in terms of making sense of that. So in terms of if you feel something is coming on, or if you just want to explore it more, I generally suggest, you know, the closing of the eyes, as you would see me doing often, and just dropping in and connecting with all those subtle layers and energy bodies that we talked about, or just giving yourself the freedom to just move how your body wants to move. You know, journaling is quite good as well. Just tapping in and just automatic writing how you feel, what sensations are coming up for you at any point in time, or if your hand just feels compelled to draw or to write images, or if you see an image in your mind and you feel compelled to draw it or write it down, do. So for me, in terms of my light language, like I would see symbols, and I would see, more or less like symbols in my head that I feel like I do it with my hands in the air at the moment, but I could feel what's coming up is actually being able to write it out on paper. So moving forward, we'll be doing some of that. Oh, sometimes, as I said, it's working with people or being around people and just being still and just seeing whatever comes through and not trying to put a label on it, not trying to control it. There is this one guy who has a gaze, and they talk about him having a powerful gaze. You know what? Gaze, light language. And many times I've seen him. Who is this guy? I'll see if I could put it up. But I remember tuning into, like, people swoon over this guy. Like, he is like, you know, if you consider, like, if he's like One Direction or Justin Bieber or something like that, or Taylor Swift, like, people are crazy for this guy. And all he does is that he maintains a gaze and he looks at you and you're just like, what? Really? But yeah, if you quieten your ego and you don't get judgy about it and you just leave yourself open, I will put his name on screen here. And if you just leave yourself open to it, I'm just like, ooh, all right. But all he does is looks at you. Crazy. But again, I said crazy. We shouldn't be judgy, but I'm just enamored and I'm quite impressed, right? So I say all of this to say, looking at my notes to make sure that I don't miss anything after talking about the guy with the fantastic gaze. 2 points I want to raise to close this off. Trust what wants to come through, even if your mind doesn't quite understand it just yet. And knowing that your language is already inside you. So sometimes it just needs permission to speak. It just needs the surrender of that control to be able to come through. And another thing, like language bypasses the mind and speaks directly to the soul. And it's part of that soul's remembrance. Okay, so I really, really hoped that gave you an overview of light language from my perspective. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys in future episodes. Bye for now.